Labor Day weekend is come and gone. We can't wear white anymore.
You can always wear white, but put away the barbecues. Time to get back to work.
The home stretch in the playoffs coming next on Extra Time. Welcome to Extra Time, everybody. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Shep Messing as always. And folks, it is time to get it on, as Marvin Gaye sang, because the playoff race is hotter than John Carver at a post-game press conference. A little later on, we're going to check into the Blanco McBride love affair and also Guillermo Barros-Schelotto's ever-growing pile of assists and your emails, of course. But first, let's take a look at the playoff madness out in the Western Conference. Shep, it's looking like it's been a great last third of the season.
Hey, Greg, it's an absolute dogfight out in the West. I think everybody still has a chance with 8 games left to secure that third and guaranteed spot out there.
Well, let's break it down a little bit. Every team, you're right, has 8 matches left to play. Houston, they're on top pretty comfortably right now, 5 points ahead of Real Salt Lake, who a little bit of a surprise in there at second place.
Yeah, and I think, Greg, Houston, all of a sudden you turn around and they've got a little bit of a cushion up top. We expected that. They're a good team.
Yep,
They're great in goal, solid at the back, great in the midfield. So Houston, where I think we thought they'd be. And you talk about Salt Lake, what a season they've had, but they're going to need to get it done on the road.
They really do need to get it done on the road. Only 3 of their last 8 games are at home. After RSL in the West comes Chivas USA. They got a huge win to jump into third place this past weekend. And Chivas, last year they won the Western Conference, making a move now.
That was a critical win. I mean, they fell behind to Toronto. They're at home. They're losing by a goal. That's a must-win. You got Jesse Marsh, and you have Ante Razov. And I think Atiba Harris did a great job. So you got to worry about that.
And, of course, Sasha Kleshtin, the man in the midfield running things. Now, here's where it really gets interesting in the West, because Chivas is only 3 points ahead of last place Colorado. I mean, that's just 3 points. That's 1 win. That's all that separates the 5 teams currently fighting for that third and final guaranteed playoff spot in the West. This is what they all wanted at the beginning of the season when this playoff format was set up.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, Greg. This new playoff format, absolutely brilliant, because every league game, and we've been talking about it, you just have to go out and play the next 90 minutes. And I'll come back to the earlier point. I think it's critical in terms of LA, San Jose, even Colorado. What's their schedule home and away down the home stretch?
Well, Shep, when you actually look at the schedules of the teams and the games that they have left, you're right. It's San Jose with 5 at home and 3 away. That looks good for them. Chivas and Real Salt Lake only have 3 home games out of their final 8, and Real Salt Lake has only won once outside of Utah all season.
Yeah, Greg, I think that's going to be a determining factor. I mean, how you do for Real Salt Lake, they're going to have to find a way to do better on the road. In San Jose, we've talked about them lately since the new players coming in. They've been doing well, and they have the majority of their games at home.
Now, Dallas has 4-4, but it hasn't really helped Dallas too much. They haven't done well either home or away right now. They need to get some results. We thought about a month ago that they might be a playoff team.
Yeah, inexplicable, really, because, again, last weekend they got the lead and then lost to Columbus at home. They can ill afford a loss like that. Nobody can. It's really coming down to the wire.
It is coming down to the wire.
I think it's going to be a dogfight between L.A. and between San Jose.
Well, LA is my wild card in this one. It seems to me that since Bruce Arena got there, they've got a much more focused group in there. They played very well against New England. They have a coach who cares, and voila, they start getting some better results. Away to New England, they get a tie. They're tighter and more organized defensively. Landon Donovan looked awesome, and Eddie Lewis brought in that much-needed stability on the left side. Now, they have a huge game this weekend at home against Real Salt Lake. This is sort of the quintessential 6-pointer, isn't it?
Well, I agree with you about the LA Galaxy, Bruce Arena, Dave Sarachan. They also made a tactical move, putting Greg Vanney as a deep holding midfielder.
Do you like that move?
I love it. Absolutely love it, because what he lacks in speed, Greg Vanney, you put him as that deep midfielder. It worked out well against New England.
Well, it's a good result for them. Now let's shift some other places to that other team you were talking about, San Jose, that can kick us off with the news and notes right now. You predict them to make the playoffs a couple of weeks ago, and they're looking pretty good right now. Darren Huckerby scored again this past weekend in the win against Kansas City. He now has 3 goals in 6 games and 3 assists to go along with that. I mean, this guy, he's the whole package, isn't he?
And they haven't San Jose lost since he's come into the team. Greg, it's not just his ability wide on the ball, getting forward, looking up, his vision, his goal scoring. It's the energy. It looks like he's revitalized players like Ronnie O'Brien.
Yeah, he has. Now, here's a question. do you put him as a candidate for the MVP even though he's only played 6 games?
Yeah, too early for that. And first of all, I think MVP is predicated on lifting your team up. So if San Jose makes the playoffs, then I think he's a candidate. But you've got to have your team do well. If LA makes the playoffs, I give it to Landon Donovan.
Well, if it's about results, you don't look any further than Columbus's MVP candidate, Guillermo Barros Schelotto, the midfield general for the Crew. The Argentine magician had another 2 assists this past weekend in their 2-1 win over Dallas, and now he's got 16 total assists. I mean, how is he doing this?
Yeah, Siggy Schmidt and Columbus, they've been a wonderful story, and he's been the catalyst. And I'll tell you why, Greg. In my opinion, he didn't come here to Major League Soccer and say, this is the way I play the game. He's adjusted to Major League Soccer. You and I were talking about it. He plays ball to his teammates the way they want it played. So sometimes he releases it a little bit earlier. He's adjusted to the league.
Yeah, and another good help he's gotten is Chad Marshall starting to play very well, especially on all the set pieces when Barros Schelotto is so dangerous when he can whip that ball in. Done a marvelous job of taking advantage of his team's strengths, and that's what they've needed. It's a little bit like watching Cuauhtemoc Blanco when he arrived in MLS, and the Mexican Wizard this past weekend started to link up with his new striker, Brian McBride. McBride finally scored his first goal since coming back to MLS. This is a classic McBride goal. It's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, that's a moment of magic that you expect from those two players. And if you're Blanco, that's vintage Blanco. How about his ability to look up, see McBride, know he could get on the ball, and know Brian McBride will finish?
Well, probably signs of things to come for Chicago. They're going to need it, though, because they still have a tight race to guarantee their own playoff spot with DC and New York just in behind them. Well, every week, of course, we try to get to the email box, and this week we have a couple coming in from Tyler in Florence, Alabama with a question. With players like Espindola, Morales, Barros Schelotto being successful, will more teams look to Argentina for talent?
Tyler, that's a good question. I think every team is already looking at Argentine players. And Greg and Tyler, I think it's a function of two things. Look around the world where the economy is bad and the soccer players are good.
Right, and that's certainly, Argentina is a big part of that right there. And they've brought in some great players. Of course, remember, for all of those good Argentina players that have come in to MLS, there's always the Filomeno that came into DC and those guys that have been busts. So it's good and the bad right there. Stuart in Provo, Utah has a great question. How important is the CONCACAF Champions League to MLS teams? And Shep, I'm going to let you have your first say on this one.
Well, I'm going to say that I think, Greg and Stuart, it's a fantastic tournament. It's a great new format, the Champions League format, and I think it's going to grow in terms of importance. I think it's very important. I think this is CONCACAF is the region Major League Soccer plays in. I think it's critical that teams do well and win that.
And of course, if they win, they get to go to the Club World Cup. Now, the problem for these teams, though, is that they know that they're going to have to maybe go down to Mexico or Costa Rica in February or January when it's off-season for MLS, and they're going to have to come up with a win. So maybe the coaches are also thinking, I can't really win in February when it's the off-season, so maybe I'll put my importance onto things when we're in form.
Yeah, and Superliga important too in terms of financial benefit to the teams that win. I think it's going to grow as Major League Soccer grows in credibility. The importance of these tournaments will grow as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on the importance issue. Now, the best question comes in from Chad in San Gabriel, California, who asks, when will Extra Time go to at least an hour? Well, this is a question we're asking our producers as well, but you have an opinion on that one?
Yeah, you know what? We want that to happen, but we also want to go to a daily show, so we're going to try and make that work.
We're going to push everybody on that one. Keep those email questions coming in, and of course, don't forget to include your address and your shirt size, because if we used your question on the air, we'll send you a t-shirt. The email address, extratime@mlsnet.com. Time now for the Volkswagen Wow Moment of the Week, and it's an assist that gets the plaudits this week.
It is, and welcome to Major League Soccer, Eddie Lewis. Against New England in the second half, wow, what a pass. Splits two defenders, Landon Donovan tucks it away, but look at this pass.
Yeah, look at the pass, and the run through the middle for Landon Donovan is beautiful. Where are the defenders, you have to wonder, for the New England Revolution? Welcome to MLS, Eddie Lewis. You're absolutely right. That is the Volkswagen Wow Moment of the Week. Well, that's all the time we have for Extra Time this week, but it's a big weekend coming up with the playoff races. What are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to New York at Chicago. Should be a great game.
It should be. Join us next week for Extra Time, and we'll kick it around.